So, Yvonne, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate having you on. I know we're going to have a great time.
I'm excited to be here. We have fun. Every time we've talked, we've laughed.
Exactly. And those are the people I love to have around me. And yeah, it just makes for a good show. So let's jump right in. What is your ninja skill?
My ninja skill is helping people to be found, because in reality, they don't need to be fixed. They're perfect the way they are at this point in time. And our whole history and education and stuff like that has been about making us who are a round peg fit in a square hole. And we've been told to kind of, don't stand out, don't speak out, don't, and it's pretty hard to find you if you're invisible. And not only that, it makes you not feel like you have a unique power.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that, especially as entrepreneurs, we really need to learn about, just because we're in this weird world and nobody really understands us and our craziness and what we do. And so I want to go in, because so when you say found, you mean a little bit more about that. And you actually have a framework around that. So I'd love to hear a little more about that.
Okay. So understand that there are principles and there are strategies and then there are tactics. Okay. Mm-hmm. The further you go down, the more specific that they get. Typically, the way people educate us in building our business is tactics. Do this, do this, do this, do this. And it's left up to us as entrepreneurs to figure out, does this fit my principles? Like the guy who goes, go make 100 cold phone calls. If you're not that kind of person, don't like to sell, this is never going to work for you. So you just feel bad, right? So what I did is I said, what is it that works, that can work regardless how you feel about it, the way you do it? Because my thing is, if you can't do it, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter what a great system it is. If and what I will tell your listeners is, at one point I weighed 440 pounds and I lost almost 200. I cut off 150 of it. And what I found was there were certain things that I was not willing to do. I mean, I knew that I needed to lose weight. I knew that it was for health and all these different things. But you will never find me journaling in a food diary. I don't like it. I'm not going to do it. I don't need to know on paper that I ate something that I shouldn't have eaten. I mean, I already know. So if you can't find a strategy that works for you, then that system, those tactics, it's not going to work. So that I say that because the Be Found framework. Whoop! Did I cut us off?
No, we're good.
The Be Found framework is meant to be just that, a framework that you can adapt to whatever it is that you're doing. So the first part of the Be Found is be yourself. I don't want to tell you how much energy and time and effort over my 70 years that I put in trying to be that person or that,
Yeah.
Be yourself. It is a lot more fun. It takes a lot less energy and you enjoy it more.
Yeah.
All right. So once you've kind of figured out, what that uniqueness is, who it is that you are, then you can go into the framework. And so the F is focus on your unique power. And people think they don't have a unique power. So can I tell you a silly story?
Sure.
This is my ice cube story. I tell lots of stories. This is my ice cube story. So I went into the freezer. My husband had bought these silicone trays that made these huge ice cubes because he's decided he's going to drink bourbon and he doesn't want it to melt in his bourbon. And I'm like, this is great. Now my drinks won't, but they were so big it wouldn't fit into my drink jar, my cup, right? And I was like, I always kind of like to look back on the history, and I was like, back in the 0000s, you had to go to an industrial plant to get ice. And then somebody said, what if we delivered a block of ice to your home? And somebody else said, that's really silly. People loved it. And then we got, refrigerators with the tiny freezers, and your grandma had that metal ice tray that you couldn't get the ice out of. It was, and if you had a party, you had to say to people, bring ice, because you couldn't make enough, right?
Yeah.
And then somebody said, what if you could buy ice at the corner store or whatever in bulk? And somebody was, that's stupid. And people loved it, right? Fast forward. Now you can get ice out. You have ice makers in your refrigerators. You have personal ice machines that you can put on your counter, right? Um, you have all different. My husband has 4 different sizes of silicone trays for ice cubes now because he really, he didn't know what he wanted. The point is, we're talking about cold and water.
Mm-hmm.
Cold and water, and each one of those things. You are not the ice cube. You are the container that forms the ice cube for the right use for the right client. So we may all talk about change. We may all talk about scaling your business. We may all talk about podcasts, but we all do it differently, and we do it the way our right client needs to hear it. You don't have to change a thing about yourself. You just have to identify it. So the F stands for focus on what that unique power is for your audience, for your clients, right? The O is to outreach consistently. Okay. As entrepreneurs, we tend to get a client, we get excited, we stop doing what got us the client, so we have the feast and famine. But not only that, when you know what your unique power and who your right client is, you can do outreach in a way that's going to pay dividends for you. It's like, I'm not going to sell ice cubes at the North Pole,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Understand your client's journey. It used to be a time when expertise was what people were buying. People do not need information anymore because you can get it everywhere. It may not be good information, but you can get it everywhere, right? What they need is implementation. They need to know that even though they may have not done the right thing or that they've got this problem, there's a way out of it, and you can show them how to do that. And so you need to understand what got them there and what's going to make them listen. So, one of the things I teach my clients is a process called RAIN. It is, you recognize that there's a general problem, you acknowledge that you have the problem, you investigate, and then you get your needs met. Now, this is not a demographic thing, this is a psychological thing. So if one of my clients is a breast cancer survivor coach, hopefully you will be in the recognize that there's a general problem for your whole life. You will never have breast cancer, you will never know anybody, and you will never be her client, right? But the moment you do get breast cancer, you stay in the acknowledgement stage for a split second. I mean, you on one side of the doctor's office, you know that you don't, you think you don't, and on the other side you do, and you are automatically going in to investigate, what do I need to do? Right? If what you have to sell for your client is something like good health, you could be in the acknowledgement stage for a long time. It's like, I'm moving a little slower. I got a couple aches and pains. I want to lose a few pounds. It's not a split to section. Something's got to happen. Like you get to the top of the stairs and go, oh my God, I am out of breath. I need to do something, right? But it could take you years to get there. So understanding what stages and what process your client goes through to get to where they are that they need you is really important. Then the N is nurture your relationships. And I mean all of your relationships. This was kind of a hard one for me because I was taught in the sell, you sell them or you leave them, right?
Yep.
So, and Chuck always laughs at me. Chuck is my affiliate coach. And because he's like, you have to talk to people personally. And my idea of personal when I first got started was putting first name at the email. because part of because I'm an implementation, I'm about getting places fast. How do I do this and get there as fast as possible, right? Which may not, in that particular situation, may not get you the quality you're looking for. But the point is, you are going to meet people who are just going to end up being good friends, good collaborators, good affiliates, good clients, just good people to know. I mean, my goal in life is that if we talk to each other, we both leave better. We've had something that we, enjoyed, that kind of thing. And then the last one, which is my favorite, is delight, deliver, and delight. if I can't delight you before you become a client, I'm probably not going to delight you as a client. Mm-hmm. There's got to be something that you go, oh, I want this, right? And not only that, once they're a client, you have to continue to delight them. And I don't mean that you have to over deliver. I just mean that there's got to be something that's unexpected every once in a while. I mean, so I tend to say, when I find out something new, like a new assessment or something that, I send it to my clients. I go, try this. Do you know? Uh-huh. I mean, if I see a new, an email that I think is pertinent to them, I go, I thought of you when and so it's not enough to just stay at the same level, right? Because you want that to be a client that is with you for more than just a month or 3 months or whatever. I mean, before COVID and I was working with organizations, my clients stayed with me for an average of 3 years or more. Mm-hmm. Okay. Which is nice because you're not always, hunting for a client. So that was a very long answer to a very short question.
It's all good. It's all good. Because I wanted people to go through that framework, though, because I really like what you're doing with it, and especially resonating with, so I had somebody many years ago. I was not very good at marketing when I first started out, and I was I was the same way where, I want to make this personal. So it now says, hello, Andrew, your first name's involved, and that's it. And I had somebody explain this to me once. They're like, marketing is like dating. And you need to kind of just, there needs to be some sort of a relationship built. There needs to be some sort of nurturing. And for me, I was sort of the club them over the head and drag them home type because let's get her done. Let's do this. And I had to realize, no, there's some more to it, But I'll tell you, my relationships that I have are significantly better because of using that technique. It doesn't sound like it makes sense, but as soon as you use it, it makes sense.
All right. So here, as an entrepreneur, not like a 9-to-5 business.
Yes.
Whatever works in your personal life should also work in your business and vice versa. Yeah. And one of the things that I found is as I got better at my relationships in business, my personal relationships got better. Mm-hmm. You really, so I think, I always say, if you are using a model, you should be able to use it personally, parts of it personally and professionally, because otherwise you've got two sets of rules in your life. And when you're using the same thing in both places, it becomes more of a part of you because you're using it over and over again. So you don't have to stop and think about it.
Yeah. And with us as entrepreneurs, our work-life balance is very, very different than a 9-to-5. 9-to-5, you clock in at 9, you leave at 5, and you go do your thing. For us, it's all the time. We're I won't say we're constantly working, but we're always doing something in our business. And so therefore we have to integrate it into our life somehow. And I think being able to do really cool stuff with my friends, and that's how I do business, it makes it easier to do that. Makes it easier. So if I'm answering emails at 3 p.m. on a Sunday, which is not unusual, it's like, okay, well, I'm building that relationship into my entrepreneurship world.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I love is when football season comes and I become a widow. All this time to work without guilt.
I love these things that non-entrepreneurs call holidays. I don't know what these are, but they're really great because nobody bugs me.
I had a Monday that I had all these calls booked. And I was like, wait a minute, is this an American holiday? It was, and everybody that it booked was like someplace else. So I thought that was a good thing, actually.
Works to your advantage,
Yes, it does. It does.
I love the last 2 weeks in the year, and it's not just because Christmas and New Year's. I love Christmas and New Year's, don't get me wrong, but I love it because nobody expects you to be on those days. That's my strategic planning for the year. I have these 2 solid weeks where there's not really, I don't feel like I have to be on. I can just sit back, go, okay, let me do this, and it makes it so much easier for me to have that time. I schedule it every week. There's some time that I have where, like Wednesdays. My Wednesdays are my days when I don't book meetings. It's for client work. It's for strategic planning. It's for other things. And once I started doing that, it made it so much easier for me. Now I have a point where I can just step back because we're working so often. We're working so much that it's really easy to get caught up in that and completely forget about having to steer the ship.
Yeah.
It's like putting the sails up, going at full speed, but nobody's at the rudder.
Well, you just backed into my favorite saying is, it doesn't matter how fast you're going if you're going in the wrong direction.
Yep.
And so you really, and I don't know, there are certain times of the year. You were talking about the end of the year, which is obviously a good one. The other ones for me that come up all the time is, at the end of the first half of the year. It's kind of like I separate the year into too many years.
Yeah.
And it's kind of time to like go, okay, what worked well and why, and how would I really have liked it to work, and what do I need to do to make that happen in the second half? So that's, and then, you do it at kind of a mini one at the end of each quarter, and hopefully every month, because, you have to auto correct.
Yeah.
Right. There are, I think one of the things that I talk about a lot is when you are attracting the right client, you get to say no to the wrong client.
Mm-hmm.
And as an entrepreneur who we all go through, I hope your people are not too sensitive, but I'll go through what I call entrepreneurial prostitution.
Yes.
And that is, I'll do it if the price is right.
Yep.
whether you want to or not, because you're a cash flow issue. So,
I love that. I'm using that, by the way. I'm going to steal that.
so being able to say no is wonderful. And it's really a service to the person. I mean, first of all, when you have the wrong client, you are going to be working overtime to try to satisfy them, and you never can. And, they're going to go tell people, oh, I paid all this money and I didn't get what I thought I was going to. I mean, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so understanding that, the other thing is, when you've got the right client, they are a joy, and you get to go deeper because they're moving at the same speed that you are. They're like soaking stuff up. They're implementing things, which for me is my right client, somebody who really wants to put stuff into action, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, we got more done than we thought. Let's find something else to do, And so that is a joy. I mean, to work with, when you work with your right client, you're like in heaven.
Yeah.
I mean, and not only that, they understand your values. So they're not saying, well, can you do, what have you got cheaper? What can you do?
Yeah.
You were talking about being a salesperson. I had a sales job once where I had 100% close rate. And on Monday, I had 100% cancellation rate. And they said to me, they had never seen anything like that before.
That's different.
Well, part of that has to do with, you don't want to have to persuade somebody. They have to see a need. And I'm really good at persuading. And I had to learn how to back that back. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise it was like, they left and went, this wasn't my decision. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it goes back to the relationship side. I think a lot of us, like you were saying, when we're in that entrepreneurship prostitution, the entrepreneur prostitution version of things. And in the build, it's really easy for us to get there, especially if we're building and things aren't working and cash flow is a problem. And we're sitting there with like 15 cents in our bank account. We're chief everything officer. I can see why people get there. I have done this. I got called out a while ago on a mastermind. The man he was very nice about it, but he's a pharmacologist for a large pharmaceutical company, and so I'm explaining what I do. I was in strictly the learning industry, online courses at that point, and he's like, "Are you a generalist or are you a specialist? Like, what do you specialize in?" And I'm like, I will do whatever I have to for a client right now. I didn't say it that way, but that's how it came across, is I'll just, whatever is going to happen. I'm brand new in business, just started this thing. I need to do it. And he's like, look, I'm an MD. My specialty is pharmacology, but I'm an MD. There's also oncologists, there's general practitioners, there's pulmonologists, there's all of these different specialties, because we get really good at one thing as doctors, and we hone in on that one thing. And I'd recommend you do that in your business. And once he said that to me, absolutely changed my life. Just go find that niche, find that one thing that you do, and don't take on clients that fall outside of that world. And again, I've done it. I'm not going to judge, but it's a much better situation when you don't.
Other thing is, and I think this is one thing that I don't, it took me a long time too. I mean, so I have probably made every mistake there is to make, because I can be very stubborn sometimes, but consistency will help you to find your niche,
Yeah.
right? You don't have to necessarily decide up front that you're going to do this, this, and this. However, when, one of the first things I do with my clients, I have two programs. I have a 6-month, program, but I have a VIP intensive month where, my clients are already in business. We just need to streamline them, help them focus, and get out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing we do is work on, I don't call it a pitch, I call it an introduction, because a pitch is salesy. An introduction is, this is who I am, kind of. I mean, but if you get out there and say, most of my clients start with, I do this, 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 I do this,
Mm-hmm.
and you sound like you're selling snake oil.
Yeah.
And the person that might actually be your right client is not there to the end of the list where that thing might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, ask for what you want, because you can always add on some other stuff.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I do my workshop every month.
Mm-hmm.
Same workshop. Believe me, it took me years to stop doing a new workshop kind of thing. And I thought it was going to be the most boring thing in the world. But I find it really exciting because I find I learn something in between each workshop. The clients are, people who show up are different. The energy is different. The ice cube story that I just told, I've only told twice now in my workshop because I just discovered it. The one that I used to tell about uniqueness was, how you buy like that $2 or $3 thing so you get free shipping?
Yes. Yep.
I bought like a shampoo scrubber for your hair because it breaks up my curls.
Uh-huh.
Right. And I threw it in the drawer because I have a bunch. Right. And like months later, I pulled it out and went, oh my God, this is different than any other one that I've ever gotten. The little nubs were all different, like, density. They were all different heights.
Huh.
I mean, I was talking about this like I had found the cure for cancer. And I'm like, if something that costs $2 can be that exciting for the right person, you can be that exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the consistency of showing up and saying what you're saying and seeing how people react to it. My tagline that I just found this year, you don't need to be fixed, you just need to be found, happened from networking. I was like frustrated about something in the networking room, and I was like, you don't need to be fixed. You don't need to follow these gurus. You're good the way you are. You just need to be found. And somebody was like, oh my God. So yeah,
Now, I always love to ask the question because I like to hear the backstory behind things. How did you get into this world? Like, what was the secret events that happened that got you here? Because it's got to be a good story.
Okay. So, I don't really lead with this, but I have an MBA from Wharton in finance and accounting.
So, just a little bit of it, just an MBA from, an Ivy League school. It's all good. Like one of the top business schools in the world.
There's so many things in my life that the decision was not made on what I wanted to do, but what I thought I should do.
Mm-hmm.
And I got into I went back to graduate school as a parent of 2 small kids, and just like under the worst circumstance. I had gotten into a fight with my mom. She wouldn't lend me the money for tuition. Mm-hmm. And so I had to apply. And my friend said, apply to Wharton. I didn't even know what Wharton was. And I got in. So anyway, and I should have probably majored in marketing because that's what I really love. Mm-hmm. But I was good at math. So I went through a couple of corporate jobs. I worked at a tax firm for 15 years. Was about to have a nervous breakdown, I think, and so they didn't renew my contract. And after the tax season, I always went to the shore to watch the ocean decompress. And this poor kid came up to me with a clipboard and said, "What do you do?" I went, "I don't do anything. I don't have a job." Oh. And I thought, there's something wrong with this. Mm-hmm. And the timing was right. So I had time to think about, I didn't have my kids. I had a couple of years before my kids were going to college. My unemployment was like probably better than my take home with commuting and all the other stuff that I had to do. And I was like, what is it that I really want to do? And what I wanted to do was I wanted to help adults learn to read because I couldn't read as a kid. And so I went and volunteered at a nonprofit to teach adults to read. And I was terrible at it.
Oh, no.
It turns out, one, I couldn't slow my brain down as people were going, the dog. I was like, right? I was really good at teaching the math and all these other things, Stephen Covey and critical thinking and stuff, but I could not teach them to read. And so they promoted me to workforce development, which I was really good at. And I fell into a situation where somebody said to me, I made a presentation to a manufacturing group, and somebody was asking me these weird questions. And I said, what is it that you're trying to ask me? What is it? He goes, I have a $50,000 educational grant that's going to expire because I can't understand the lady who's supposed to be helping me. Can you help me with this? And I went, I have no idea, but I sure am willing to try. And so I found somebody, delivered the service. They were thrilled. And at the graduation, the guy said, Yvonne is the best. She should be in business for herself.
Nice.
And my boss was there. And on Monday morning when I walked in, I had a memo that said, we want to know who you're talking to, where you're going, where you're spending your time, where you're doing, And if they had left me alone, I would still be there today. I would have been a happy camper doing what. Oh, and the other thing was, out of the $25,000 that I brought in, which was like magic money to a nonprofit, I asked for $500 so we could put together something more professional, so we could go to other, companies, and they denied it. So anyway, so now I'm like, I have no. I resigned on April Fool's Day.
I love that.
I have never resigned from a job in my entire life. And I used to go to, when we went to the shore, I would go to this bookstore and buy books for my classes. And I bought this book called The 22 Life Strategies Everybody Needs by Thomas Leonard.
Okay.
Is it Leonard? Was he the father of coaching? Whoever the father of coaching was. Thomas. Anyway, whoever. And it said, if you're interested, come to this, workshop. And I did. And that's how I got into coaching. And of course, I decided I was going to do business coaching because I had this MBA, right? But I ended up doing health coaching because I lost weight. Yeah. Right. So and then COVID was like another kick in the pants. I was doing executive women's for nonprofit. I had a nice clientele. I went in, COVID came in, and it's like watching the sinking of the Titanic, and I said, I'm 70 years old. If I'm going to build a business again, I'm going to build one I like. So here I am. And that was also, I think, when I started thinking about, I'm not going to work with people I don't like.
Yep.
Life is too short.
Yeah. And
it's getting shorter. So
it goes back to the old adage, I'd rather have one $10,000 client than 10 $1,000 clients, because I want people that see my value, that are going to be easy to work with, and I'm going to do the most good for them. I will be able to give the most value to them because it's an equal value proposition. We understand each other's value, and we want to make sure that we're honored. And so
it goes deeper than that. If you are the kind of my clients are creative, and and sometimes they can be wound a little tight because they're really process oriented. And so sometimes, I run into somebody who's got the money to pay me, that, but after each phone call, I'm like, oh God, I'm exhausted. I can't see working with that person for a year.
Yep.
Yeah. So again, that's when you got to move out of that, entrepreneurial prostitution. I can do it. I actually did that once. Somebody wanted me to do, it was a really short thing. They wanted me to give them 2 hours, and they wanted me to come to their house. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
And I said, this is, and I gave him this extraordinary, a really expensive price then. And he was like, that's fine.
It's like, damn it, the go away price didn't work.
So anyway, yeah. So, I would just say, be yourself, take a chance, have some fun. Everybody knows I'm not tech savvy, so when things go weird in my, in my workshop, they expect it.
Mm-hmm.
If my dog barks, that's the way I am because I'm a dog lover.
Uh-huh.
It is. I just am who I am now.
Absolutely. Well, Yvonne, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun, and yeah, I've had a great time. Hopefully, you have too.
Oh, I have. So I hope you guys will either, call and talk to me because what I do on my call is not a sales call. It is, I talk to you about your unique power. I talk to you about where the gaps are in your client attraction. And I talk to you about where you possibly left money on the table because you didn't think, you weren't looking at that with the new insights that you have.
Absolutely. And you can find all that information in the show notes with all of the
Absolutely.
links and everything else. So, again, Yvonne, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. Thank you.